Yeah, I have a very sore throat today, so as you can hear, I'm talking very quietly. I'm not so much of a digital nomad as an analog nomad, so here's my presentation. Warning, this is an 18-rated show. May contain strong language and scenes of a sexual nature. You've been warned. Ladies and gentlemen, strap in, sit down. It's going to get dark, it's going to get deep. I'm going to make you cry. But Johannes asked me to tell my story, so hopefully I won't fall over, which is why I'm going to sit down. Can you all see me okay? Yeah. If you want to come closer, feel the love, it's all good, feel free. So yeah, I've never, I think if I swear on the night, I've never talked about my life before in this kind of format. It's always been one-on-one or 1-2, never with a microphone in front of a big room. So yesterday I was preparing my story by writing on my iPad, and I wrote this big long story. It took me hours, and then today I read it back and it took me hours, mainly because I'm quite a slow reader. But I am going to try and condense it down for you and give you the main bullet points, okay? As I say, there are bits in there that might make you cry. Feel free to cry, it's okay. Give yourself a big hug the person next to you, whatever. Hopefully, maybe there are bits in here that may inspire you as well. To be honest, take what you want from it and do what you want with the rest. Johannes deemed my story interesting enough and unusual enough that you guys may want to hear it, so hopefully it is as such. If nothing else, hopefully you get a little bit of a laugh. But I would like to do something first. I've really genuinely not been feeling very well today. Some of you may have noticed me on the boat looking a bit pissed or drugged up, okay? This is me when I'm not very well. This is the me that I genuinely don't let people see. It's the me that I'm not really a big fan of, to be perfectly honest with you all. But I'm a big boy now, and so I have to deal with it. So can I do something, and I would really love it if you all joined in. On the count of 3, I'm going to raise my hands. When I raise my hands, I want you to laugh, cheer, scream, shout, whoop, whatever. Okay, clap your hands like a bunch of seals. I need your energy tonight, okay? I genuinely, this is not a thing like that I normally do, but I need to feel your energy so that it gives me energy so that then I can do what I'm going to do. So on the count of 3, as loud as you can. 1, 2, 3. Quite frankly, guys, you should be ashamed of yourself. That was absolute shite. What about the guys around the sides? I didn't hear any. Let's try it again. 1, 2, 3. That's a little bit more like it. It's still about, I know it's late, but, we can all wake up. So anyway, my name's Chris. You might think that my voice sounds a bit strange. It does. This is the English language when pronounced properly. Sorry about this if you fail to understand it. This is how I roll. So as I say, my name's Chris. I'm from England. Today, as I sit here, I am 31 years old. It's not my birthday today, but I am 31 years old. And I retired at 30. I own businesses, music-related businesses. I started out as a drummer years ago, and I own businesses, analog businesses, actual physical hands-on businesses. I know nothing about tech. Okay, I'm not going to teach you about systems and about SEO and all these acronyms, because quite frankly, I can't spell acronym. So yeah, I'm just going to tell you about how I started, what I did, and basically what drove me to do what I did. So let's start at the start. In West Philadelphia, born and raised, in the playground. That's where I spent most of my days. So thank you, someone understands that joke. That's Will Smith's story. I don't know whether Freshman's Bel-Air, anyone get that? No, so 6 months on. Rushed into hospital, diagnosed, because I had a collapsed right lung and pneumonia. I was diagnosed with a condition called cystic fibrosis, which is a lung condition. Some of you, we have a few doctors in the room, in fact, they may have heard of this before. It's quite a severe condition. Basically, back when I was a kid, back in 1984, people died because this shit is bad, okay? You're born with it, you die from it. There's no cure, there still is no cure. There are better treatments, okay? But generally speaking, the prognosis is pretty crappy. I've lost 2 friends this year, both at the age of 25, have basically spent the past 5 years of their life, their 20s, in hospital. okay? It sucks. Generally speaking, I try my best when I can to kind of live up here. So a lot of you may have seen me running around, bouncing around. I'm quite a loud kind of guy generally. This is actually me when I'm quite chill. So yeah, you know, and it's tough. Over the years, it affects, as I say, your lungs, your stomach. Has lots of knock-on effects with the body as well. So I'm not going to go deep into it, but you can look it up if you want to do so. As I say, I'm giving you the squashed-down version of this story. I will explain at the end how you can get the whole entire thing. So I basically spent the first 2 years of my life, I don't remember any of this, but my mum tells me that every single week she'd take me to the Royal Brompton Hospital in London, and you know, the doctors and nurses, they would be like, yeah, it's a lovely little kid, beautiful, obviously. And they'd say, but quite frankly, he's probably not going to live to his 3rd or 4th birthday, so make the most of him while you can. Well, I'm quite a stubborn bastard, because I'm still here. And I lived past my 3rd and past my 4th. And I remember I was around about 5, you know, at the time when I kind of first recall hearing this from doctors. And basically they said, 30. 30 is kind of the age at which, you know, you're not really going to... 30 is kind of the upper end of things. If you make it to 30, you do well. And obviously at that kind of age, you're pretty impressionable, right? 5 years old, an authority figure such as a doctor tells you 30 years old, you can't believe it, 30. So I always had this number in my head, 30 years old. And it drove me, but I didn't know it at the time. I was just a normal kid, you know, I'd run around, I'd play football with my brother, I'd climb trees, I'd try and stamp on my own shadow to see if I could stop it from moving, all of those kind of things that kids do. I obviously had to do treatment every single day. I'd take antibiotics every single day, I still do, I have a much longer list nowadays. But, you know, other than the hospital visits, which would be intravenous antibiotics, which is where they put a massive long line straight into your vein, I have a nice video on my Facebook page. Which shows me pulling one out. So for the squeamish of you, don't look it up. But if anyone's interested, my Facebook name is Gerald Alvin Valentine. May have confused a few of you. And go and find it in my videos. It's good fun to watch. Show your friends who are squeamish and see how long it takes them to cover their eyes. So yeah, and they basically pump really nice strong drugs into your body. So I would do this, you know, sort of 2, 3, 4 times a year, 2 weeks in hospital at a time. And that's you know, kind of how I grew up. We weren't traditionally, we weren't very rich as far as an English family goes. We did all right. You know, my mum looked after me. My dad worked as a policeman. But you know, we had roof over our head. We had food on the table, so that was all good. But if I ever wanted anything, my parents would say, "Well, you've got to work for it." I never got pocket money. Ooh, poor me. So I would knock on doors. I'd be knocking on doors of you know, neighbours and stuff like that, and I would say, hey, can I clean your car? Can I mow your lawn? Can I wash your shoes? Can I basically do anything to earn any money? And I'd negotiate the fee and I'd do a good job. I was a stickler for doing a good job because I wanted this thing called money that everyone else seemed to have, and so I wanted to get asked back to do the job again. And that's kind of, you know, I kind of started my working life when I was very young. I didn't know it, that's just what I did because I wanted money. And then I got a bit older, and it was my 9th birthday. I got rushed into hospital the night before my 9th birthday, in fact, with a temperature of 104 Fahrenheit, which, as you know, if you translate it, isn't good. So I spent my 9th birthday, in hospital. I'd already spent hospital visits a couple of times that year, but this time I got cake, so it was good. And then the following year, I said to my neighbour who lived down the road, he owned a drum kit. Amazing. He owned a drum kit. I was going to play it. And he said, you know what, it's your birthday, you were in hospital last year, sure, I'll let you have a go. And he showed me this thing, right, and he just played the screw. He was like, and he goes, there you go, hands with the sticks. I just sat down. Now me being me, right, I know what you're thinking, this dude's pretty shy, right? Doesn't really value himself very highly when it comes to being awesome, but fuck me, right? I played this thing straight back to him, right? Just, hey, beat for beat. He looks at me like, jaw dropped to the floor. He's like, how the fuck? And he goes, right, try this. Alright, give me the stick, sat down, played it straight back to him. His mind was blown, right? I was just like, yeah, this shit's easy. I don't understand the problem. And it was giving me more and more things to try and play, and I would just play them straight back to him, and he was just astounded. And I was like, this is cool, I like the drums are fun. And so, as any 10-year-old kid would do, is just play the drum kit, runs home to Mum and Dad. Mum and Dad, can I have a drum kit? And what did Mum and Dad say? Fuck off, exactly. You ain't having a drum kit, drums are noisy, right? But, see, my uncle, he was in a band, and my cousin also learnt the drums. And they were selling a kit, cheap. And it was cheap, because it was crap. It was like one of those Mickey Mouse Toys R Us kits with loads of bits missing, right? And the bits that were there were also just in really bad condition, right? So I had a bass drum, the one that you hit with your foot, and I had this snare drum in front of me, the ones that goes like, bah, bah, like that, and I had one tom here that goes boom, but it kind of went when I hit it, right? And over here you have a hi-hat, which is supposed to go okay, but I didn't have a hi-hat, so I used my fishing rod, put my cycling crash helmet, because I never used to like wearing it, I put that on top, right, and that was my hi-hat, so like that. And then I had a biscuit tin lid for a cymbal, so that's kind of like that, right? And I played this in the garage, this unheated, barely lit garage, for like a year, and you know, I made this thing, just sound like an angel, this kit, you know, it's beautiful. And I loved it, it was good fun, and kind of as a reward for my hard work, my parents, the year later, the guy down the road sold his kit, and his family were quite well off, and my parents were friends with his parents, so we got the kit pretty cheap, and I was like, wow, I upgraded to a proper drum kit, right? And I upgraded from the unheated garage to my bedroom, which was cool. And I just used to play and play and play. Just really enjoyed it, okay? Really kind of, something in me, it spoke to me. And so as I got better, I was like, I was smashing the crap out of the kit, basically, is what I was doing. And we discovered that actually this kit was fucking ancient, and we couldn't buy new heads for the drum kit. And so I thought, well, I need a new one. And my parents said, well, look, hey, we can't afford to buy you a new one. But even though that was a gift, we'll allow you to part exchange that gift if you can raise the difference for the new kit that you've seen in town. Right now, this new kit by today's standard, rubbish. But to me, it was shiny and blue, and it was new. And I was like, yeah, I want it. So I did. I knocked on more doors, worked harder, mowed more lawns, cleaned more cars, whatever it may be. I did what I had to do to earn the money. Now, again, my parents, unbeknown to them at the time, had really kind of instilled this work ethic in me. If I wanted something, I had to work for it. And, all the while, I'm in and out of hospital and all the rest of it, but still pretty, kind of average kind of kid. So I was playing drums, and I got really good at the drums. I just used to smash around. I had a few lessons, like 3, I think, from a proper drum teacher with a proper drum kit. And again, that inspired me further, not because he taught me loads of stuff, but his kit sounded amazing, and he had some wicked cymbals, and I wanted a kit like that. So I was like, I'm going to get really good, and then I'm going to be able to afford a kit like that, and it's going to sound awesome. Everyone's going to think I'm super cool. I mean, not that I wasn't already super cool, let's face it, come on. Excuse me. So I upped my efforts, and then I got the new kit, and I tuned it up, it was sounding good, I wanted to do cymbals, so I had to work for them. And then I was in secondary school when I was in year 8. I'd missed this competition in year 7 because I was in hospital. Quelle surprise. But yeah, so year 8, there's the school has a music competition, and every different category has a competition, and if you win your category, you go through to the final. Now, I was year 8, right? I was about that big, okay? I know, you see the size of me now, you think, how are you supposed to small child? I genuinely don't know. But yeah, I was tiny back then, okay? I was probably a skinny little kid as well. I'd sit down on the drum kit, I'd just disappear, right? But I somehow got put in the advanced category with 2 of the oldest guys in the school who were like well known for playing the drums, right? Guess what happened? Kicked their asses, man. I was so good, it was amazing. And everyone would be like, who's this guy? And I was like, I just playing my thing, doing my thing. And so I won the drum category, and I went through to the final, and I came 2nd overall in the whole school. No year 8 had ever done that before, okay? And to me, I was just like, well, yeah, I'm just doing my thing, but everyone else thought it was amazing. Year 9 I didn't enter because one of the older lads, it was his final year in the school, and I was friends with him, so I said, look, you win it this year, okay, and I'll take it back next year. And so he won the drum category that year, I didn't enter. And in year 10 comes around, I won it again, went through to the final, came 2nd in the final again. And then, amongst sort of sport and girls and sport and more girls and, that sort of thing, I kind of sort of fell out of love a little bit with drums over that time. But then year 11 came around, so that's sort of 15, 16 years old. And I had the choice of whether or not I was going to continue in schooling and do my sixth form and go to university and all those traditional kind of things, or whether or not I was going to finish there. But school I love school. I hated missing school, and I've missed a lot of school over the years. But school worked for me. I enjoyed it. It was good fun. Okay, I didn't like missing out because I liked hanging out with my friends and I didn't want to miss anything. Like the bloody party last night everyone had fun at. And I was in bed. Thanks for coming and waking me up, by the way. So that's all good. So I was in year 11 and I decided school wasn't for me and I was going to quit school, and it didn't really matter to me about my GCSEs. We have these things called GCSEs in England. I knew a mark on a piece of paper or whatever, a stamped qualification, wasn't going to do anything for my life. Okay? And around about that time we had a guy come into school, careers dude. Does anyone ever remember the careers guy? No? No one ever had a career? Are you awake? Come on, is it? No, you did not. In German, I mean, basically you're all German, aren't you? Let's face it. Do you not have this? Okay. So good man. Thank you for participation. Okay, cool. So this guy come in, and he was like, okay, so starts asking all these bullshit questions, and he's like, so what do? Have you thought about this? I said, look, mate, I ain't being funny, right? Let's face it. I'm not going to waste your time. Don't waste mine. I said, I'm going to retire at 30. I'm going to be a drummer. Right? I'm going to be retired at 30. If I'm not retired, I'm going to be dead. So it doesn't matter. Right? And he was like, what the fuck? I can't believe it. It's this little skinny little kid, 15 odd years old, like, sorry, what? And I was just speaking matter of factly. To me, yeah, I was going to retire at 30. That's what I needed to do. And in my head at this age, was like, if I live any longer than 30, I was going to enjoy those years. Yeah, I'm gonna cram a whole life into a shorter life. If that's all I've got, then I'm gonna roll with it. And he said, well, let's just for argument's sake, seeing as we've got another couple of minutes to waste, what would you do if you weren't a drummer? I said, well, I'd be a carpenter because I love working with my hands, I love being creative, and I would make beautiful things because I like to see the actual products of my mind. And he said, so why wouldn't you be a carpenter? I said, well, I can't because of my lungs, because I have bad lungs and all the dust and the glue, etc. would not be good for me. I said, but I would do that if I wasn't going to be a drummer, but I am going to be a drummer and I am going to retire at 30, fuck you, see you later. And that's what I did. And so I left school. Oh yeah, that year, by the way, year 11, entered the competition, won the drums again, of course, went through to the final. I won the final! Yeah. First drummer in the 28-year history to ever do so. And since then, it's only been done one other time, and you know what they did? They only copied my fucking assignment, didn't they? Right? So I am sort of I'm a bit of a showman, I guess. So anyway, so I left school. I didn't have a great relationship with my parents. They weren't bad people. We just didn't really see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. And I went to drum college in London. I mean, I played stuff. I could just play. I'd made a lot of it up. Whatever was in my head. It was like drumming Tourette's. It just came out on the kit. I didn't really know what I was doing. I'd never had any formal tuition, and I didn't really know the theory behind what I was doing. I would just play. But people come and say, hey, can you teach me how to do this? Can you teach me how to do that? And I was like, yeah, sure, give me money. Why not? I'll do whatever you want. And so that's kind of how I started my teaching career. So I went to London and I learnt the theory about a load of stuff. So I moved out of my home at 16 and I left school at 16. I moved to London for 9 months and I did drum college and then came back to my hometown, and the day after my final performance in college, I had my driving theory test. So of course, me, true to form, studied my driving theory test in the car on the way to the test centre, right? And I passed, of course. And and then I got back home and I booked my actual practical test for 1 month to the day. And my dad, true to form, was like, 1 month, you haven't any lessons, you're not going to pass. I'm like, cheers, Dad, thanks for the faith. But my dad, as I say, lovely guy, very negative kind of guy, okay, not my kind of person. And I said, look, a month's a long time. And he said, well, I ain't going to pay for the lessons. I ain't going to pay for the test because you're going to fail. I said, man, I ain't needed your money for years. Age of 14, I was doing my own cooking, my own cleaning, and my own this, that, and the other, because I had higher standards than my parents did. So my mum was like, well, look, for that, I'll do it yourself. All right, I will. So I did everything myself. Earning my own money. So I was like, I'll pay for my own stuff. I can save it up. Check me out. Didn't have a lot saved, but In that 1 month, I had 7 lessons. 7 lessons, 7 minors on my test, passed, first time. Yeah, check. Oh, thanks. I've only crashed like 15 times since, it's been fun. No, joke. So, I passed my test, and to be fair, he was good enough to insure me on his car. I bought my first car from a scrap yard for £350. It was shit. But I moved into this 1-bedroom flat, and I had my own car, and I was working 7 days a week, doing a tiny bit of teaching, and I was working in a gym and a clothes shop and a hotel night manager at the weekends. And I started, I wanted to do the teaching. Obviously, I love the drums, and the money was so much better in the teaching. It's like double the amount in teaching than it was for working in the clothes shop and all the rest of it. So I started off just, with a postcard, like literally just a handwritten little postcard that you stuck in a newsagent's windows, and it's 50p a week. And then when I could afford a second 50p a week, I know all this kind of talk about advertising, Google ads, this, that, and the other, like blows my mind, right? I'm like, no, man, just get a postcard, 50p a week. It's not done. Fucking easy, right? Just put it there yourself. And so I started, I got two postcards and 4 postcards, and then, right, whoa, check this out. One of the girls I was teaching had a friend, and she could draw, so I commissioned her, I think I paid her like a tenner, to draw me a logo. And then I had a logo, right, and I rang up the Yellow Pages. I was like, guys, I've got a logo. Stick this shit in your book. And I was the only person in my double page to have a coloured logo. I was rolling. I was such a professional. I was like, I've got a logo in the Yellow Pages. I'm amazing. Like, this is what I mean about my analogue life, okay? And I was teaching out of my parents' garage. In the garage, I'd put a shed, and I covered the shed in loft insulation. This is how I started, okay? And that's where I would do all my teaching. I had this crappy kit. I had a stereo worth about a £5 that when you turned it up, just went right, and I'd try and play the drums to that. But that's where I started. I started with basically nothing. Every time I got a bit more money in, and I had a bit of money to spare, I'd buy a little bit of better equipment. Okay, that's how I did it. And and then I started earning, a bit more money and this, that, and the other. And then it came time, because I had so many inquiries, I had to sort of make a decision. And this is one of the things that I would think could potentially be a lesson for you all, maybe. Right? I made a bold decision. Being bold. In business, sometimes it pays to be bold. Okay? I made a bold decision. I was going to quit all my other jobs because I kept having to turn drum lessons away, and drum lessons were earning me double the amount that all the other stuff was. So I thought, well, wait a minute. Well, it wasn't massively clever, but if I earn double the amount, I have to work half as much, which gives me more time to earn more money. I know, right? That was my thinking. And I was like, fuck me, I'm clever. Didn't need the rest of the school and the university. I was like, that right there, simple maths, that's what it's all about, okay? So, I did that, and I was like, right, this month, I'm going to quit all my other jobs, and I'm going to make sure that I'll get a certain amount of new pupils on, which is going to give me a certain amount of money, which is going to allow me to put food on my table, and fuel in my car, so I can stop fucking walking everywhere, right? And that's exactly what I did. On the very final day of that month, it was July, I remember that, I got my final phone call, which gave me that one last student that I needed to be able to make ends meet, right? Now again, could potentially be a lesson there. Has anyone heard of the law of attraction? When you put enough out into the world, when you believe in all these kind of things, yeah, it doesn't always work, but sometimes it works. It worked for me, right? So, I was rolling. I had my own place, I had my own car, I had a kick-ass stereo, and a nice shiny floor I could dance around on, right? And I was like 17, 18 years old. And people couldn't believe it. They could not get their heads around it. But for me, I was like, well, yeah, this is just life. This is what you do. I was still working my arse off. So I just did this, and I worked more and more. And then this shed in the garage thing weren't working for me. And one of the guys who I was teaching at the time, he said, look, you could make this like a bit of a more fancy place. And I was like, tell me more. He said, well, look, do this, do that, do the rest of it, and it could be like a proper little studio thing. And that was all I needed, just an idea, right? I don't really think you can probably tell, right? I don't put too much thought into too many things, I just do it, right? And sometimes ignorance really is bliss. And so I said, well, look, funnily enough, my old building society, Bradford and Bingley, just turned into a bank, which was in Santander. And I had money in Bradford and Bingley, so I got a shareholder thingy, whatever it was, and I had some money. And I was like, well, that would be a good place to invest my money, rather than spanking it, on shiny new shoes and a new watch or whatever. And so that's what I did, and he lent me the tools, and I thought, I've got 1 week to take the shed out and do this whole thing, and blah, 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 blah. And I worked hard, and I've done it. It wasn't perfect, and it wasn't quite finished, but it was good enough. And I was able to continue lessons the following week, and I did, and then, within the next week or two, I finished it all off and tightened it all up. And you know what? In the 8 years I actually used that studio, I only got one complaint, which I think is pretty decent. Okay, sometimes if you just get stuck in and give it your best shot, it's good enough, and that's what matters. And so I built up my business, and I built up more and more and more pupils to the point that I couldn't teach anymore physically. I had to take on some new teachers. Right, now again, I didn't know anything about business. I was still using my personal bank account, and every week I'd go in with like £1,000, and they're like, "You sure this is personal money?" Yeah, personal money. Yeah, sure. You're getting a lot of checks from a lot of different people. Yeah, I've just got a lot of friends, haven't I? Play a lot of online poker. Didn't even have a computer. So yeah, you get the idea, right? So I trained up a few people. I didn't really know how to train them up. I was like, well, this is what I do it like I do it. And they were like, all right. I was like, I'll pay you money. Oh, sweet. Right, and that's what we did. And then it kind of rolled on like that, and then I opened up another studio in another town, and again, to be it was bigger and fancier and this, that and the other, but it was the same sort of idea, and I got really sick doing it. Again, the whole time, my health's up and down, up and down, up and down. And I got really sick doing it, and I remember one time I went into the hospital, because of all the sawdust and the glue fumes and this, that and the other, right, and I went into the hospital. I was in a pretty bad way, to be honest, and the doctor went, your lung function's fucked. And I was like, yeah, I know. And she's like, if you carry on the way you're going, you're going to need a heart-lung transplant. And I went, I ain't going to have one. She went, well, you know where that leaves you then, don't you? I was like, don't worry about it, doc. Got it sorted, got a plan. Right. And I had a plan. It wasn't a very good one, but I had one. Right? My plan was I was going to work my arse off, get the studio sorted out, get a load of teachers on board, get a load of money, and retire at 30. Still in my head. Right? This is what I was going to do. To me, there was no other option. It wasn't a choice. This, to me, was my life. It was do or die. Right? And I didn't die. Woo! So, hold on, you ain't heard the ending yet. No, so anyway. So my 20s, very much up and down. Okay, very much up and down. Business would get good, I'd get sick, business would plummet. Okay, I'd get a little bit better, business would go well. Get a bit sick, business would plummet. 24 years old. 24 years old. And for some reason, everything just clicked. Do you know when you have a bit of time and everything's just going well? Your hair looks good, your eyebrows are perfect. Yeah, the boots you always wanted, they just come on sale, 50% off. Oh, right? Everything just fell into place, and I was living with my best mate at the time, and he was one of the guys I used to teach, and he was also a martial arts instructor, and he's a fucking clever guy, right? And he used to listen to all these things and read all these things and all the rest of it. Very, very smart guy, and he, we just really connected, both very much on the same level. And he was struggling with girls, and I was like, mate, I know girls, I'll help you out. And I was struggling a little bit with business. He went, mate, I know business, I'll help you out. Cheers, bud. And we did. We'd spend just night after night after night chatting in the kitchen. We'd just sit on the worktops because we had no chairs. And he would give me wicked ideas like, well, do you know you charge, half the term up front with a cheque or blah, 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 blah. I said, why don't, for cash flow purposes, you have standing orders every month? And I was like, blew my mind. Yeah, why not? Why not have standing orders every month? So I implemented a load of his advice. He implemented a load of my advice. He got out the deepest friend zone possible and managed to marry the girl of his dreams. Thanks to me. So we really helped each other out, and we was working out every day. I was dating my neighbour, she was slamming hot, no one could understand how I managed to get out. I couldn't either, but I didn't ask any questions. And everything was great, everything was brilliant, and I, health-wise, felt normal, or what I thought like a normal person would feel like. And then I got sick. And I thought, you know what, I ain't been sick in a while. When was the last time I was sick? And I thought back, and it was 4 months previous. I was like, okay, that's all right, that, 4 months. 4 months. Fuck me, 4 months, I'm 24 years old. And all I've managed in 24 years is 4 months. And I thought, wait a minute, there must be another time where I've managed more than 24 months. Sorry, 4 months. And I was just laying in my bed, and I was thinking back over the years, trying to piece things together. And it dawned on me that in the 24 years that I'd been alive, I had not managed to string together any longer than 4 months not being ill. And that thought, right there and then, cracked my mind. Before that point, my mind was like impenetrable. Nothing got to me. I was just always positive. I was always energetic. I was always, looking on the bright side. And other people go, how are you always so positive? How are you always so this, that, and the other? I was like, it's because I'm stupid. But that thought right there, I'm not really stupid, look at me, I'm so clever. Right, but anyway, that thought right there, it cracked my mind. Right? And I can honestly say, hand on heart, I have not been the same since, okay? So much negativity poured into my mind that day, and since then, my lows have been so much lower, and they have lasted so much longer. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but that cold wasn't just a cold. It was a virus that went on to last 18 months, and it really put the boot in. And then I got sicker, and I got sicker, and I got a little bit better, and I got sicker, and I ran a marathon, and I built new studios, and I come up with this idea of this thing called drum truck and whatnot. And again, if you read the full story, I'll explain it all. There's genuinely not time today. And I did loads of stuff, I ran this marathon, and I trained for 2.5 months, and I raised £11,500 for charity, right? But the whole time I was really fighting, and then I got sick again and again and again. And I remember once I went into the hospital to get another IV line, another 2 weeks of treatment, and I came out, within 1 month, I'd lost 1/3 of my lung capacity. And I was like, man, this is not fair. This cannot be. I was doing everything, taking every tablet, not doing anything I wasn't supposed to do. I was trying to be the best I could possibly be, because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired all the fucking time, right? But that's just how it was. Don't laugh. Harsh. No, I'm joking. So yeah, and that Christmas, I took another 2-week course of antibiotics, oral antibiotics this time. After about a week, I started feeling a little better. I thought, maybe this time, be alright. Finished the 2-week course of antibiotics. 2 days later, again, I was losing. And the thing is, because I'd been struggling for such a long time, all the business was fucked up as well, because it all depended on me at the time. As well as it sort of kind of had been going, and as successful as it looked, it wasn't great. Because there was a load of things that I was missing. Okay, and it all depended on me, and I was basically fucked. And I was just like, I can't do this. I cannot. I was 26 years old then by that point. I cannot do this. I'm not got the energy. I was asleep sometimes for 22 hours of a day because I physically could not drag myself out of bed. I couldn't feed myself. I couldn't do anything. I was like, how the fuck can I run a business? How the hell could I try and find a relationship with a girl, which is something that I thought I really needed at the time, I really wanted. I was like, I can't even stay awake. What's the point? And I gave up. And I was like, fuck this, fuck that, fuck life. I can't be bothered with it. And I basically just wanted to crawl into a hole and die. And I basically sort of just allowed myself to do that. And luckily my brother and my sister-in-law, they took the reins of the business. They had no experience, but they're both very clever people. And they did just about manage to, to stop it all completely falling apart. And I just went back to my sofa and my bed for 2 months. Barely left the house, barely ate anything. Let my hair grow, let my beard grow. I looked like a yeti. It was horrible, right? And I'd literally just lost all the will to live. And in one day, in a moment of clarity, don't ask me what sparked it, don't ask me what the situation was, I genuinely don't know. But one day I just woke up and I must have looked at myself in the mirror and thought, come on man, this is not you. This is not you that anyone else knows. This is not the you that you've been all your life. This is not how you want to go out. And I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? And I was like, well, you know what? You've always wanted to travel. I have conversations with myself sometimes. I was like, you've always wanted to travel. I was like, yeah, but I was going to do that after 30. And I was like, mate, the way you're going, you ain't going to make it another 30 days, let alone to 30 years old. That's 4 years away. And I was like, why don't you just go? Just sod everything else. Nothing else matters right now. Just go traveling. Try and get your smile back. Try and get your passion for life back. Just try. You owe it to yourself to try. So I decided, fuck it, I'm going to do it. So I decided, well, I need to get a bit more well. So I went back into hospital again. I got really ill just before I went into hospital. I mean, any doctors in the room would know oxygen saturations of 86. Borderline brain damage. Me? Brain damage? No. Yeah. Really ill. I couldn't even walk to the fucking ambulance, which was about 20 feet from my door. A year previous, I was running a marathon. Right? It was humiliating. It was embarrassing. I hated it. But it was necessary. I had this idea in my head. I'm going to go traveling. Right? So, told the doctors, of course, they said, don't do it. Okay? I told them why and all the rest of it, and of course, they put me on suicide watch and took away my scissors. And I said, look, I'm not going to kill myself in hospital. I'm going to go traveling. I'm going to kill myself traveling. And I was like, look, I genuinely don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try. And all my friends were like, but what? I was like, I don't know, but I'm going to go. So I went round and said goodbye to my family and friends. I said, you might see me again, you might not. I don't know, but I owe it to myself to try. Now, all of us here today literally are in the same boat, in that we have travelled in some way, shape or form, right? So I booked my ticket to Thailand. And I'm sure most of you could probably guess that within a couple of days, even though physically I was still pretty much exactly the same as I've been for the past 18 months, mentally, I felt more free. Mentally, this fog had lifted. And mentally, I was in a bit of a better place. Bangkok was not that place. Bangkok sucks. I don't like cities. But I went north on a motorbike through the hills of Thailand around the Golden Triangle. It was amazing. I felt free. Okay? And then I travelled down south to the islands. Travelled on a night bus. Night bus has recirculated air. Recirculated air is bad for my lungs. The day after I travelled down there, I was sick in bed all day again. I was like, man, come on. This is not cool. I have just spent 18 months being really ill, and I've now come here and I'm trying my best, and I'm basically back in exactly the same place as I was. And it sucked, but luckily the next day I felt a bit better. The next day I got out of bed. The next day I went to the beach. The next day I saw an island. And that island looked really appealing to me to swim to. I'm not a very good swimmer, but fuck it, I was going to swim to that island. Now I forgot Bear Grylls. Sand and sea, the rule of 3. It's always 3 times further than it looks. Whoops. So I got in the water and I'm swimming. Freaking myself out about sharks. Every little bit of litter that hit me. Whoa! I was like, I can't fight a shark. I'm not a very good swimmer. Give me a bear or a lion on land, I'm all over that shit. But I am not fighting a shark, right? But then the trouble is, the waves started to get a bit bigger and hitting me in the face. And I started swallowing a bit of water and carried on swimming. Past the beachhead by this point. Looked back to the beach, couldn't see people because I was quite far away. And the waves got bigger, hit me in the face, taking on a little bit more water. Noticed the storm coming in. All the boats had fucked up. And I panicked. Because I could hardly breathe. I was really hyperventilating at this point, and I was like, oh shit. This is exactly the sort of situation in which people die. And I could see the headline, stupid Englishman tries to swim out to Thai island and drowns. But what was so perfect about that situation is right there in that moment, I decided this was not my time. And I was not ready to go. I had more fight left in me than I thought I had. And so I turned on my back and I thought, if I can breathe, I can stay alive. If I can stay alive, it doesn't matter where I end up, because I'll be alive. And the rest I can figure out. So I turned on my back, I put my head against my chest so the waves would break over the back of my head, and I kicked for all I was worth to that island. About 20 minutes later, I got washed up onto the rocks and the shells. The swell was much bigger than I thought it was, and I cut my legs up and all the rest of it. All the seawater came up. I think a fish came out at one point. And but I was alive. And I was thankful that I was alive. And I Bear Grylls it up. I put down some bottles, empty bottles, because there's loads of trash around the Thai Islands, down my shorts, and had a big log under one arm and a big piece of polystyrene under the other arm, hopped back in the water and thought, again, I'm floating now, so it's going to be easy. And I kicked back to the shore. About 4 hours later, I arrived back on the shore. The American girl that I was travelling with, where the fuck have you been? Whoops. And that night I was laying in bed, kind of thankful that I was alive, and looking through life-affirming poems on the internet, and they're all good, but they didn't really say what I wanted them to say. And I was like, dude, come on, man. You've written lyrics and poems for years with your music and stuff. Why didn't you write your own? So I did. Within 15 minutes, I had this poem that really was important to me, and it kind of said what I wanted it to say. And I got it tattooed on my ribs. And some of you have asked me about it, and I said, no, it's for me. Fuck off, don't read it. Okay? Mainly because you'll get it wrong. The timing, it's all about the timing. And so I did that, and I got it tattooed on myself in Thailand, and it was like one of those kind of things that stuck with me then. It was like, no, come on, I can live. And I had the trip, and I did 2 weeks diving in the Prince Islands in Malaysia. It was incredible, one of the best 2 week stints of my life. And I climbed Mount Kinabalu in Malaysia, and I got super sick for another 2 weeks, but I did it. And I did all these things, and I got my smile back. I got my passion for life back. And even though I had to go back to the UK after 5 months, because I was ill and I was back in hospital again, something had changed in my mind. And I was ready for life again. Now, I was looking at the time for jobs such as dog walker, because I like dogs and I like walking, or shelf stacker in Tesco's, or a barman, something without any responsibility, something where people didn't depend on me, where it wouldn't really matter if I was there or not. And I had this business, obviously, before I left, and I felt horrendous that I'd left everybody behind. So selfishly just disappeared. I needed to, for me, absolutely I did need to, but I felt like the shittiest, rubbishest, most awful boss in the world, that I'd just deserted them all. I was ashamed. And the hardest thing for me was making that decision, to walk back into that studio and face the guys that I'd left, and try and regain their respect, try and regain their trust, and try and be their leader again. But I figured, you know what, if I really cared, if I really loved them, and they really mattered to me, I would, because they needed me. That thing was falling apart with my brother and sister in or at the helm. They had no idea what they were doing. Now, I also know I had no idea what I was doing, but I seemed to somehow do a slightly better job than they did. So I got over myself and stopped being such a pussy. Without warning, I walked back into the studio. Some people were very happy to see me. Some weren't, because they knew they were going to get fired. And I did what needed to be done. I fired the people that needed to be fired, I rewarded the people that needed to be rewarded, and I worked my arse off to turn it back around. I paid off about £20,000 worth of debts that I had amounted in the time that I'd been sick. I really got my head down. I worked, I researched, and I became a proper boss. And I became someone that really got the idea of business. Okay, I read books, I listened to things, I researched marketing and all these kind of stuffs that need to be done. Okay, it can all be figured out, right? We can fuck it up a lot, but we can still turn it around. And I did that. And then last year, there were a few little bits and bobs in between, but last year, my 30th birthday, I was laying on my brother's couch, been there so many times, and I was struggling for breath, and I was waiting to go into hospital yet again. But it dawned on me that this time it was different, because this time I'd actually managed my goal of not needing to be at work to earn my money. And while it sucked that I was ill again, I could enjoy being ill this time with a little bit less worry, with a little bit less guilt, because actually The company didn't need me anymore. I had achieved my goal of retiring at 30 years old so that I could live the life I wanted to live, be the guy that I wanted to be, and not have money as such a thing that I worried about. And that was a really nice place to be. And a year has been and gone. And again, I've had a fucking hard year this year, but I'm still here. I'm sitting here talking to you guys, and I'm sharing my story. Okay? There is more to the story, and like I say, if you want the full version, then you can give me your email address at the end. Sort of sat just over there at the back. If you just write down your name and email address, I will get the lady who does all my techie stuff. I have a tech lady. And I go, can we do this? And she's like, yeah, sure. I've been able to do that for ages. I'm like, wow, I thought that was a really new idea that I just came up with. She's like, no. And I was like, can we email loads of people at the same time? She's like, yeah. MailChimp. Oh, what's this MailChimp thing? So she'll do that for me, and you'll all get the nice edited version with all the spelling mistakes and all the rest of it taken out. I will leave some of the swear words in for effect. But yeah. So what I discovered is basically we all have problems. Who in this room doesn't have any problems at all? Nope, nobody. Brilliant. We all have problems. We all have issues. We all have tough times. Okay, life is not so kind as just to be perfect to us all. There's so many exterior things that come and bombard us from day to day, right? And the thing is, no one person's issues are greater or smaller than anyone else's because they're an issue to us. If it's an issue to us, it matters. If it matters, it then takes up space in our brain, okay? But I would urge you all to just think about your issues and maybe try and shift a little bit of perspective, okay? So my motto for me is as long as I can breathe, the rest is easy. Okay. Think about it like this. Human beings can go for a few days, say 3 days without water, right? We can go for about 3 weeks without food. Human beings are tough, man. We are really, really tough creatures. Okay, I was actually, and this may, shock a few of you, but I've looked on suicide sites a few times and read the stats because I wanted a decent way to kill myself that was actually going to work. I didn't want it to be painful, I didn't want it to be long and drawn out, and it's fucking hard to kill a human, man, seriously. Right, short of a shotgun to the head, which they're not readily available in England, it's fucking hard. Okay, so 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, we can survive. You can't go much more than a couple of minutes without air. And if someone comes up to you and literally chokes you, and you cannot breathe, everything else in your life just disappears, and all you can think about is taking that next breath, because that is what we need to survive. Okay, that's the most important thing we need. So if you can breathe, the rest is easy. So I'd urge you all, have your problems. Absolutely, you're never going to have a life without them. But try and maybe shift the perspective a little bit. And also try and look up and look around and see that everyone has problems. And sometimes connecting with somebody else about a problem, about an issue, sharing, caring, helping them instead of worrying about yourself can alleviate said problems. Okay, we're all in this together. We're not black or white or Indian or Asian. We're people. We're human beings. We're all just trying to stay alive. We're all trying to eat. We're all trying to keep a roof over our heads. Okay? So try and just approach any problem you have, be it in life or be it in business, with a slightly more empathetic kind of angle. That would be, if I had any advice to give, that would be, my advice. So, a couple of things before I finish off. Number one, I have a business psychology workshop that was supposed to be today. I wasn't there. I was asleep on a sun lounger. Really not been very well today. So I've shifted it to the 25th of November at 2 o'clock, and it'll be in the 365. If anyone is interested in business psychology, that's when and where it will be. Nata has a record of it on his computer as well, so you can ask him. Second thing is, some people have been asking me when I'm going to play the piano. The answer is tonight, in the piano bar, at midnight. Okay? Myself and William, who's sat out there somewhere, hopefully. William, where are you, William? Cool. He doesn't know it yet, but he's going to play at midnight as well. And this was the only time we could get, and so the idea being is that we all have a little bit of a sing-song, we all just, enjoy. If anyone has a guitar, you know, whatever, bring it along. We'll just, you know, have a bit of a hippie loving kind of thing. That's, you know, that's what it's all about. So yeah, and as I say, if you want to, that's going to happen. If you want to give the email address to get the full story, that's also going to happen. And I'm going to leave you with this, my poem. Now, I did explain there will be scenes of a sexual nature. I am a shock and awe kind of guy. So, thanks. After I finish, I will be done. Feel free to whoop, cheer, applaud, throw knickers, no boxers, please guys, thanks. But it starts on my right side and it ends on my left side. It goes like this. When life gets hard, you feel the pain. It feels like endless pouring rain. You fight the day, you fight the night. It feels like nothing's going right. You get beat down, kicked in the nuts, and feel the bruises, breaks and cuts, but you stagger on, only to find the fight has now consumed your mind. But this is where you win or lose, because this is where you have to choose. Am I the type to not back down? Am I the type to stand my ground? Am I the type to stand up tall? Am I the type to give it all? Am I the type to stare down death? Am I the type to take a breath? And with that breath, let out a roar to let them know just what's in store for anyone who dares attack. There's no way that I'll turn my back. Want to break me down? You're out of luck. See me right here? I'm hard as fuck.